Okay, you've probably all heard me say it before. I'm no expert on crypto. In fact, I'm probably the last person to talk to when looking for advice on it. But there are some friends of mine who know a thing or two about crypto, and I'm learning from them. Wherever you are, welcome to another of my takes on China. And today I'm going to use the extensive research skills of one of those friends, James Wood, a regular contributor to my channel and someone I'm inviting back as soon as he is free to do another talk show. He's on X as the Commie Pommy, and that's because he's an English-born Australian, as am I, and we have the right to call ourselves pommies. And being a bit of a supporter, he's chosen to call himself a commie one, which I think runs off the tongue quite nicely. He's also had a video made about himself by Xinhua, which puts him in a very small group of very special people who are known not just as supporters of China, but supporters who can be relied upon to tell the truth and then back it up with research. Anyway, I've linked James's posts, one about the topic of today's video, which is a huge Bitcoin crime, and the other about his Xinhua video, which is actually quite a good watch, not too long. So this story all starts with the theft of 127,000 Bitcoins through a hack at Lubian, a Chinese Bitcoin mining company, which has now collapsed. Now this is where I have to be honest and say that this isn't a surprise to me. I've never been much good at working out how safe Bitcoin is and whether or not I should be in it. So this story, which from here on in is almost 100% James's work, is really interesting, at least it is to me. James starts by pointing out this was a hack the US doesn't want you to connect the dots on. The biggest unsolved crypto heist in history may not be unsolved and might not be a heist at all, but a state-level black-eat-black operation. In late 2020, something strange happened in the Bitcoin world. A small but fast-growing mining pool in China called Lubian was hacked. This was not a small breach, this was catastrophic, with 127,272 Bitcoin worth about 3.5 billion then, at the time of writing, worth about 15 billion today. These coins all belonged to a Cambodian businessman called Seizure of the Prince Group. But here's where the story goes from hacker drama to geopolitical thriller. The coins didn't move for 4 years. 4 years. Any normal hacker would have mixed the coins, broken them into smaller wallets, cashed them out quietly, or maybe laundered them across chains. But these coins sat frozen, untouched, silent. That's not hacker behavior. That's state actor level discipline. Then suddenly, in June and July 24, the entire 127k Bitcoin was quietly moved again. It was consolidated into new wallets, and those wallets were immediately tagged as US government controlled by Arkham, one of the most accurate blockchain intelligence platforms in the world. Is that a coincidence? It hardly seems likely. Then came October the 14th, 2025. The US Department of Justice suddenly announced criminal charges against Seizure. US authorities, they said, have seized approximately 127,271 Bitcoins, except that's exactly the same amount stolen in 2020. And none of the private keys were ever explained publicly by the Department of Justice. Not a word about how the US supposedly obtained control of those wallets. The technical forensics do tell the story. The real attack in 2020 was a 32-bit PRNG. That's a pseudo-random number generator disaster. Lubian, the Chinese Bitcoin mining corporation involved, used a fatally flawed wallet generation system. 32-bit pseudo-randomness, not cryptographically secure enough because it can be brute force opened in 1 to 2 hours with modern tools. This is identical to another vulnerability known as the milk-sad vulnerability. Except that was exposed in 2023. More than 5,000 Lubian wallets were built using this flawed method, and this made Lubian's 127,000 Bitcoin mathematically acceptable and susceptible to efficient brute force. So the Cambodian criminal gang led by Seizure was a perfect target for any major intelligence agency, and the US Department of Justice their own list of 25 seized wallets match perfectly the addresses stolen from Libya in 2020, every single one. Now let's put the pieces together. A mining pool used weak PRNG-based private keys. 127,000 Bitcoin was stolen in a single highly coordinated sweep. The coins remained frozen for 4 years, which is unlike any criminal behavior. But in June 2025, the coins suddenly moved to wallets, later marked as US government. Then the US Department of Justice announced that the seizure of the exact same number of coins were from the addresses that matched the original hacked Libyan addresses, but also the indictment of the person believed to be the owner of them. And the DOJ has given us no explanation for how they accessed that. Now, this is looking less like a heist and more like an expert cyber operation initiated in 2020 and then cleared up in 2025 with a legal rubber stamp. USA seems to have taken the approach to steal first, prosecute later, profit immensely in the meantime, and call that justice. Moreover, it expects the world to applaud. It's little wonder that China went along the track of banning cyber or crypto trading and cryptocurrencies in 2021. Now, much of the discussion and reasoning by the usual experts was that there were two main reasons. One was the power usage was surging to the point where the grid was overworked, supplying domestic and industrial energy needs. And if we're honest, this is a perfectly rational reasoning. Makes sense. The other one is a lot less rational. So this is what China wanted to control the money flow, and anonymous crypto wallets prevented them from doing so. Now, the reality is different. Most Bitcoin holders are almost certainly honest investors, and this is one of the few places in the world where money can be moved around illegally, anonymously, and of course outside of the taxation system. Is there a country in the world that should embrace that kind of technology? Of course, there shouldn't be, but there is one, which, with its recently approved Genius Bill, signed into law in July of this year, Donald Trump has not only legalized but deregulated the industry so that the US government will have more control, but that doesn't stop lawmakers or anyone else from having their own personal coins. The Trump family has already several of these and has benefited from having the currency used. Benefited very financially. Again, something he has already done, his own coin, the Trump meme coin, benefited 58 holders while 764,000 gullible supporters lost money on them. Now, we can bet that all 54 winners were insiders as well. Now, according to James Wood, the US has always loved one thing: control. Control the system, control the keys, control the narrative. This time, they didn't just backdoor communications. They backdoored $15 billion of someone else's Bitcoin. A national level black eat black operation, plain and simple. And when they were ready, they wrapped it up in a press release. Now, whatever your politics, this should terrify anybody who's in crypto, because it proves one thing: even non-custodial wallets aren't safe. Weak randomness can and already has killed an entire mining pool. And if you're holding billions in digital assets, the biggest threat isn't hackers, it's the government. Not of authoritarian China, but the so-called free world, the same country that claims to protect freedoms and property rights. Now, we all know it as one that lectures others on crypto or cyber security. The US accuses China of rigid control mechanisms in finance, but one thing is certain: unless you're committing a crime in China, your money is a lot safer in one of their banks than it is in investing in a US-approved legal coin, whether that be a stable coin which is pegged to the US dollar and controlled by US banks, or a crypto coin which can be dangerously unstable, but more important, can be manipulated by people who know what they're doing and who are able to make sales or purchases before we, mere mortals, even know that an event is going to happen. If you need more information, talk to James. Go have a look at his post. It is really, really interesting. Thanks very much for watching my take on China, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.